21 chapter series, Desk Book of Pharmaceutical Dissolution, Science and Applications, among others. He is the co-author of an electronic text, Basic Pharmacokinetics. Sir is on the roster of experts with WHO, United Nations Totkan Program and International Executive Service Corps IESC. He is listed in Who's Who in Biotechnology, Who's Who in Among Asian Americans and American Men and Women of Science. He is the founding editor-in-chief and on editorial board of several scientific journals. He has received numerous awards for excellence in teaching, research, scholarly activity, two Service to Country awards from the United Nations, and nomination for the Distinguished Fulbright Scholar Award for Teaching. Today, he will be presenting his talk on intellectual property rights, careers in IP. A warm welcome to you, sir. And students, presenting before you the speaker for today, Professor Umesh V. Banakar.
Good afternoon. So, yeah, I know it is afternoon, it is raining outside, it was nice and cool when we had lunch. So, it is very easy to have drooping eyelids. Or a good time to have a single mom, something like that. For those of us who know what is single mom. Anyway, um, thank you very much for having me here. It is really, I always like to talk to ground realities plus uh, art science commerce colleges because those are technically not professional colleges, but that's where uh, there is IP that is generated as well. Okay. Important aspect for today's presentation is it is being live recorded, so I better not criticize anyone. Okay. So I will try to refrain myself. Okay. At the same time, we'll have some fun. First order of business for next 2 hours, we are going to have fun. So we don't want any interferences, so we will turn our cell phones off. Okay? When you are sleeping in the night, do you turn your cell phone on? दुनिया गई जन्नत में मुझे सोना है, right? So let's do that. और सोना नहीं. Okay. Intellectual property rights is what we will talk about. I can make it as boring as possible if you want, or I can make it as exciting as possible you want, because one thing is I can talk a law, and jurisprudence classes are not something that people are excited about. Okay, so I can give you a law for every single step, but that is not the point. The point is we are going to look at what do we understand by IPR, and I know GAC, which is Government Arts and Commerce College or Science Commerce College in Kandola, they have patents. I know. I also know you are engaged in research, so I am fairly aware that you are not new to this concept of IP. Okay? Uh, but what I believe is you are aware of patent as such, as opposed to what goes behind getting a patent as well as what to do once you have a patent. That is the big question. Not only to get one, but also what to do with it. Yes, you will get a promotion and then what? Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to talk about the domain of IPR, what does it include, and we will ask a very important, first important question is, who generates IP? Okay. And next question we'll ask is, what is the contribution of a scientist or a technologist or a technical individual who is generating IP in the business of IPR? Okay. Because I can give, I am not going to spare the faculty either. This is an actual situation. A student like you completed his bachelor's in pharmacy degree from one of the colleges in Maharashtra. He came to US to do his PhD. So he completed his PhD work, and then what was his PhD work? His PhD work was to develop a product which will be used in pain management, fractures and whatnot. So he worked on that and he developed a wonderful product. He did all of his PhD work on all the ways and means that you have, design of experiments and then objectives and all of that, collection of data, analysis of data, and then came out with conclusions. He did some in vitro work, he did some in vivo work in animals, and then he did some confirmatory work in human testing, and everything worked very well. So we got a nice PhD degree. He completed his PhD degree. He completed his PhD degree and came back to India and started to work. Foreign degree है जी, तो job मिल गया. Okay. So life was going normal. Got married too. Ooh, nice. So life was going on. 2 years later, he gets a FedEx from his professor, and he opened the FedEx, and there was a copy of a patent. He was the named inventor, number one, and second named inventor was his professor. Wow, a PhD work converted into a patent, exclusive rights. Again, party time, party हो गई, promotion मिल गया, life went back to normal. 18 months later, he got another FedEx from his professor. And he was like, wow, अभी क्या हो गया जी? So he said, well, maybe I'll have to redo my work or something. enough हो गया. He opened his FedEx and then there was a small envelope in it, and in that envelope there was a congratulatory note. So they go, congratulations, so and so, this is your first royalty check for 6 months for the product on the market, which was from your patent. And that was in multiple thousands of dollars value of your work. Real story. For next 9 years, he was getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in only royalty for his PhD work or his work, which was converted into a product, which was the license was bought out by a company for his patent, and then they converted it into commercial product, and they were selling it. That's value of IPR. He was entitled for 6% royalty, which was shared between whatever the agreement was. Right? That should open up your ears. Faculty. So, a faculty person or organic chemistry teacher in an art science commerce college, not commerce, in US commerce is different college. So that those are colleges known as metro colleges. Art science commerce colleges are known as metro colleges, not professional programs. Which is fine. So this individual was a chemistry professor who was interested in synthetic chemistry. So his interest was synthesizing gums, the gluey, chicken stuff. Right? He was interested in that. But he was one step ahead. Whenever he synthesized a new gum, he patented it. So he had about 8 patents in his hands. Well, life was going on normal. One day, a guy knocked on his door of his office, and the guy was dressed in a black suit, white shirt, red tie. Black suit, white shirt, red tie is a message saying that I am powerful guy. That in US, that is the message you are sending. Okay? So whenever you see any political leaders in US presenting, they will have uh, dark suit, white shirt, a blue tie or a red tie. Red tie is for power, blue tie is, oh, I am one of you like you. So he knocked on the door and he said, are you so and so? Typical professor, he said, it depends. And he said, I am a lawyer from this law firm. And he said, then I don't know you at all. He said, no, I'm here to help you. He said, then positively I don't want to know you because lawyers don't help. So he said, okay, well, let me make it informal. So he loosened up his tie, and then another indication of in US, when you loosen up your tie, it is informal. Now you are buddy buddies. Okay? So he came and then he said, oh yeah, now we can sit and talk. And then, just talking. And a lawyer from a law firm is not going to come just because, oh, I want to shoot the breeze. So he just came along and said, oh, no, you have 8 patents. Oh, you are doing some innovative work. You have inventions. So yeah, he was wondering why is he interested in my patents. Along the way, he asked him a simple question. He said, well, do you know if anybody is using your invention? Typical faculty. Oh, somebody is using my invention. Good. I created something which is useful for someone. He said, oh, yeah. Then the lawyer said to him, do you know that, well, if anybody uses your invention, you are entitled for some compensation? He's like, now the ears went up. Oh, really? I said, yeah. But then again, teaching is a noble profession. Yeah, it must be some small amount. So anyway, somebody is using it, it is so nice. He said, how about if I ask you a simple question? And the same question I'm going to ask you folks. Spanish bearing gums. This particular pattern that he was talking about was a pattern which was for a gum which doesn't stick to skin surfaces, biological surfaces, but it sticks to cellulose surfaces, cardboard, paper, it sticks to that. Okay? So where would that be used? Do we know baggage tags that are applied in airlines when you check in your baggage? You get a baggage tag. Okay? That is applied. There is gum in that. Try to rip it off. You cannot. Tear it apart, and then the gum doesn't stick to you, but it again patches out. How many baggage tags are applied in the world across all airlines? Take a guess. Per day. Anyone? Your guess is as good as mine, but I know the number. Take a guess. Wild guess. How many baggage tags are applied per day in the world by all airlines? Because all airlines are using that gum without his permission. Now everybody is interested. Over 17 million per day. And every baggage tag he is entitled 3 cents. And 3 cents USD is equal to about 25 or 30 rupees. Now you do your mathematics. 17 million times 30 rupees per day he is entitled. Hmm. So he said, oh, really? So then the lawyer said, oh, yeah, now I can help you. So what are they going to do? I said, well, I'll show you what we can do. They made an agreement and whatever. And what did they do? The first thing they did was they sued American Airlines, the largest airlines. Airlines admitted in court that yes, they did not take permission, so they are entitled for paying compensation. They calculated the number of tags. So they said, oh, let us settle outside court. So it was settled for I'm sure not for some small few $1,000, but multiples of hundreds of thousands. Then they sued next airline. Right? So the plan was pretty clear. With the precedence that, well, the first airline had already folded, admitted. So by then the FAA, which is the World Federal Aviation, they got the hang of it and they said, well, let's stop this guy. So there was a class action activity of what we call as class action. Last one, I said, okay, well, we will settle once and for all. So it was settled outside the court once and for all, and obviously it was for an undisclosed amount. Whenever anybody says an undisclosed amount, means it is not a small amount. It is not a large amount either, but it is a larger than large amount. When that happened, 40% went to the law firm, and then he said, now I think I can retire. Value of your work, and you control it, you are exclusivity for it. So patent lena is one thing, patent ka use karna is another thing, and the value of the patent. Okay. Just getting a patent and going after, okay, let's get patents and patents and patents and patents and patents, I don't know what to do with it, is a big question. Okay. So in the realm of the picture, what we will do is we will take a look at what is the domain of IPR and where do scientists fit in, why did scientists play a role in IPR. Okay? If they don't play a role in IPR, then even if they are important, it doesn't matter. So if you are able to demonstrate that, well, there is a role that scientists play in IPR, and we will check what that role is playing in all of the domains, which are only 3 anyway, not too many, in total IPR discipline, then it gives a career in itself. Okay, so along the way, we'll talk about that. So far, so good? These are 25 top brands in the world for 2022. Top 25 brands. Number 1 is Apple, $522 billion a year. Next is Amazon. What does Amazon do? Amazon is like apna tapri wala. They buy chicky from one place and they sell it to others. They are merchants. Number 2, 500 plus billion a year. Brand control. In top 25, China has 11, US has 9. We'll not get into the GDP figures. Germany has 2, England, South Korea, and Japan has 1 each in top 25. $5 trillion economy banna hai humko. Now, I will leave it up to you after this point. Why are Western countries or so-called developed countries or first world countries, why are they progressing? And they have a sustained growth. That is because they have understood not only to gain rights on intellectual property, but also to maintain them, protect them, and ensure that these are exercised. Okay? Recent news items. Yeah, I'm showing the whole thing, the big picture in the beginning itself. The student getting a patent, the faculty getting a patent, the value of the patent, and now how to protect your patents, our so-called IPR. High Court in Andhra Pradesh has restrained NATCO from manufacturing using insecticide with FMC Corporation's patent. That insecticide is very useful for crops. That insecticide is worth over $10 billion a year worldwide. So NATCO was manufacturing it without informing FMC. So FMC took them to court in India. So FMC's rights were protected and NATCO was stopped. Johnson & Johnson takes Aurobindo to court for an anti-cancer medication. Indian pharmaceutical industry is brought to court in US left and right for all the generics, particularly Para 4s. Because whoever is a patent holder, they are owning the rights to it. Okay, so protection. Look at the last one, which is really, really disturbing is every year there is a think tank worldwide recognized who look at what is the status of IP in various countries, particularly developing countries and particularly countries that are emerging. Please do not take it politically otherwise or any kind of that it represents a straightforward determination where it has been realized that India, setback for India as US places India on the priority watch list because of IP violations. So हमको बहुत आगे जाना है. But first we need to understand IP. This is the big picture if you want to look at it. Total big picture. What you generate from there, you can get a product which is worth millions and millions and take it to the market, and then you need to have ways to protect it. At the same time, there should be from a standpoint of the national standpoint that there have to be policies and procedures where how do you protect your own inventors. Okay. Road to sustainable prosperity, we talk about it all the time in India. Whenever there is a presentation on commercialization of a patent and now transferring it into, taking it to the market, and ये आता है हमेशा. Road to sustainable prosperity goes through recognition of IPR. What is prosperity? Please talk. In your mind, what do you mean by prosperity? Or you don't want to prosper? I mean, I'm asking you as a friend. What do you understand by the meaning of prosperity? Promotion मिल गया, salary went from 1,000 rupees per day to 5,000 rupees per day. Is that prosperity? बोलो. 3 बरस कॉलेज में जकमारी की and you got a degree. Is that prosperity? Come on, speak up. You have a research program in oncology and you are working towards a common goal for cervical cancer. And along the way, as you are progressing in it, you are every step of the way, you are protecting yourself by getting ready. iPhone 13 Pro कितने पैटर्न्स है इसमें? कितने पैटर्न्स है? Right from the microchip all the way to the screen, there are patents that are protecting this one product. One product. 1.7 lakhs in India. iPhone 14 Pro Max. Huawei, Samsung, Qualcomm trying to copy this. But in that process, Samsung came out with the first flip-top smartphone, which Apple cannot do. बोलो prosperity क्या है? Do you want to work in an IT field, communications field, where you are getting a product which is continuously improving? iPhone 7 से अभी 14 आ गया है. You are working on a cancer program where incrementally you are innovating, starting from a lecturer to assistant professor to elementary school, secondary school, 10th grade, 12th grade, undergraduate, postgraduate, and then postdoctorate. I gave you so many examples when you're progressing. Is that prosperity? Or just money from $100 to $200 per day? Is that prosperity? Bolo? Out of the box thinking chalu karo. Are you understanding what I'm saying, or it is just like, okay, this guy is talking nonsense? All of this is prosperity, but it is interpreted as money making is prosperity. If you make millions and millions, then it is prosperous. Nope, it is not. If a country goes in various technologies and they are progressing by protecting it along the way, that is prosperity. Why are we not in space technology? NASA के पास सब है, ISRO के पास भी है. IT, we talk about it so much. Not handful of patents in India. Majority are with IBM and these guys. क्यों? Where is our Reliance? Where is our TCS? Where is our Infosys? Where is our Birla Group? Where is our so-called these big names? It is not criticism. It is most important to realize that, well, if we want to really progress and become so-called first world countries, so on and so forth, our grassroots is we need to have something which we can say is ours. We own it, and we should have the means to protect it. We should stop others. हम सिर्फ टर्मरिक नहीं हम इधर हैं. We should have our means to protect it as well as to ensure that nobody copies it. Okay? All right. So that's the thought that you have to get into mind when you talk about IPR. Right? So presentation is in 2 or 3 parts. One is we'll talk about what is IPR, which a little bit you know. Then we'll look into the domain of IPR. Then we'll look into what is the contribution of scientists, or who is the IP generator, and what is the contribution of scientists in each of the domains. And then if it is very significant, then you can make it as a career itself. And then we'll talk a little bit about our center. What is IP? IP we already know from our in the introduction. The young lady said, well, it refers to the creations of the mind. Creations of the mind, which includes inventions. And that's what we are in the business of. Inventions. There are 4 types of rights we can get for our inventions: patents, copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets. Usme patents are the ones that are most talked about because they have a tangible return, which is, if you want to call it revenue, whatever is you want to call it. Whenever a fashion design group designs a outfit, Sabyasachi or whoever, okay, for a shirt and a pant, whichever way you color it or whichever way you structure it is not patentable. It is copyrightable. So they get copyrights. For they can only produce 49 of those units, because the moment you produce 50th, it becomes a commercial property. So these guys only sell to filthy rich like our Bollywood stars. Oh, खरीदा नहीं है फिर ना. कभी नहीं दिखेगा बाद में क्योंकि 49 तो हो गए. That's why they pay crores for it. If you write a book in fiction, Dan Brown, so you will make millions. But if you write a book on dissolution technology, you will make a few thousand because it is a highly technical book. ये कोई एकदम national thriller ऐसा कुछ कर दो, can make millions. But it is copyright. Also, you can get money on that. But patents are the ones where there is a much tangible return. The downside to that is patents are only valid for 30 years from the date of filing. Copyrights are for 30 years, 30, which can be renewed 3 times, up to 99 years. You can get, it can be transferred to your sibling. You can transfer it to your child. शाहरुख खान के बच्चे लोग भी हम दिल दे चुके हैं सनम 100 years long one. Whatever his movies are, Bazigar and all, they are copyrights from them. The kids are enjoying that, or will enjoy that. Okay? So it depends on what copyright you want, but the key is there are 4 types of it. We'll talk about patents today only, and then we will look at the career. 1967, World Intellectual Property Organization, they came out with a list. There are about 170 plus items in that list, of which two ones will come directly to our hearts are scientific ones and discoveries, because that's what we are in the business of. So one thing is certain, whatever scientific work you are doing is potentially can be patentable, or you can look at it, it can be worthy of looking at whether I can get rights on my property that I'm generating. So the first one of its IPR is patent. So what exactly is a patent? आपको अगर मैं पूछा आपको कि भाई patent क्या है? You can show me a patent, but can you tell me what a patent is? Patent is an official document. Official document is a legal document, granting the right or privilege to an inventor, which is you, to an inventor a term of 20 years from the date of filing. Now it is streamlined worldwide. The only right to make, use, or sell his or her invention. So आपने invention किया, experiment किया, you got invention, so to speak, then you file that invention and you applied for a patent, you got a patent. So you got so many years of exclusive right that only you can make, use, or sell this invention. I have a very simple question for you. Definition is easier. What is an invention? बोलो. What is an invention? Do we know what is an invention? Because the entire thing To get a patent, you need an invention. What is invention? Okay. Any process that is new is an invention. Really? What is an invention? कैसे पता चलेगा आपको invention? How many of you guys have patents? How many of you have filed for patents? Well, I know there are people who have filed for it. So they are not here. Who tells you you have an invention? काम तो आपने किया है. Who should tell that I have an invention? I'm not talking down to you or I'm not talking at you. I'm asking you a question as we are talking, discussing it one on one. आपके काम के बारे में किसने बोला कि आपके पास इन्वेंशन है? क्या आपको रात को ड्रीम में आया? Oh, मेरा इन्वेंशन. Guide. And who tells the guide? What is she saying is, well, for those of you who are sitting at the back, what she said was, we have to search in the literature and see what who has done, and then we check whether I have an invention. Something similar? Correct? How would you know that you have an invention in your hand? So you cannot have an IPR without IP, and sorry, we cannot have an IPR without invention, and you cannot have an invention without IP. Only thing we know for sure is we have I mean intellectual. Well, I can ask you another important question. Is there a difference between intelligence and intellectual, or is it the same? Socho? When you get a degree, are you become intelligent or you become intellectual? Okay, what is it? How many of you say you become intelligent after getting a degree? How many of you say you become intellectual? Anybody else? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Association हो गया contagious. Whenever you complete a program, academic program, at the end of that you get a degree, and at that degree time, the convocation speakers tells you multiple times that you are great, you have done a good job, you are ready for the field. At the end, the person says, now you will learn. Now your learning will start. तो अभी तक क्या किया हमने 4 वर्ष? 1 plus 1 is 2. Is that intelligent or intellectual? I will prove to you 1 plus 1 and 1 is 1. Same statement. 1 and 1 is 2. हमने मैथमेटिक्स में हमको स्टैंडर्ड 2 में हमको पढ़ाया है. एक आम ले लो, दूसरा आम ले लो. कितने आम हो गए? 2 हो गए. थोड़ा आगे चले, देन बोले कि 1 times 1 भी 1 ही है. तो मैंने एंड बोला, ऑफ नहीं बोला. तीसरा थोड़ा और ऊपर हो गया इंटेलिजेंट, तो बोले कि नहीं 1 and 1 से 11 भी हो सकता है. उसमें एंड नहीं है, सिर्फ 1 and 1 है. किसी ने कभी कहा कि 1 and 1 is 1? A 1 rupee note and another 1 rupee note is equal to 1 2 rupee note. 1. So what did you do here? You applied intelligence to get to something which is different. Nobody has done that before. Is that intellectual or intelligent? That is intellectual. And we are in the business of intellectual property generation, not intelligence generation. Intelligence is a prerequisite for intellectual, and from intellectual you create creations of the mind through your intellectual capacity. Will give you a product which then you'll have to determine whether that qualifies for an invention. If it does, then that invention has to be applied for in the patent office, which has to meet 7 criteria. Then the patent office will grant you or allow you, okay, आपका invention is, we will give you rights for that, which is a patent. ये process है. Okay? One more time. Intelligence से अपने, you have used your intelligence to come out with something new. So you have created intellectual property by creations of your mind. That now has to be looked for whether there is an invention in this. वो अगर मिला तो then that invention has to be applied for to a patent office to check whether it qualifies for granting you or allowing you rights for 20 years by granting you a patent. इसके लिए 7 criteria है. Once you satisfy the patent office for that, then it will be granted or allowed to be. So now what you have created through your intellectual capacity, creation of your mind, has now translated into a product which has met the criteria for granting you the rights for that many years. So all projects may not end in a patent, but all patents have to start with a project. Which also means that every single project that you do has the potential for getting a patent. Now you should feel good. So every single project that is being done has the potential for getting a patent. Okay? All right, let's go forward. It's just to give you an idea what are the worth of some patents on the market today. And these are in millions and billions. So there is value for that. Start with what can be patented. Okay? A method, a machine, an article of manufacture, a composition of matter, chemical synthesis, a new use for the above, design of an article, certain plants, they can be patented. What cannot be patented? Pure mental processes. कल आपको dream आया, cannot be patented. Idea patents are not granted unless because there is a requirement of what is known as a possession of invention. आपके हाथ में चाहिए invention. As rudimentary it is, you don't have to have a fancy thing which is at the final stage. Any rudimentary stuff. Proof of concept है, patent मिल सकता है. Okay. Mathematical algorithms. That's why all computer programs are not patentable because that's basically a mathematical algorithm. Calculators, not patentable. Only copyrights. You can get C language, C++, plus language, all of that. Okay? Scientific principles, naturally occurring things. Newton बेचारा पेड़ के नीचे बैठा था ऊपर से apple hit his head. Gravity was discovered. Couldn't get a patent. Naturally occurring scientific thing. If that apple would have gone from ground to top, that is patentable. So do you know of any technology where it goes anti-gravity? At least this question you should be able to answer. Any technology which goes from the ground up in the air. drones, okay. Anything else? आप तक तो drone पे पहुंच गए. It's fine, that's good. Space, good. अरे, aeroplane, start with that simple thing. Entire aviation industry is patented. उसमें भी modifications है. 4 engine, 2 engine, 3 engine, helicopters, vertical takeoff, going against the ground. So keep in mind, naturally occurring things, scientific principles cannot be patented. Printed matter cannot be patented, you can get copyrights, of course. So books and manuscripts that you use, that you publish, they are all copyrighted. Human beings cannot be patented. Any technology that you use for the destruction of humans cannot be patented. But nuclear energy is patentable as long as it is for non-destructive use. So, generation of electricity, space exploration is all patentable. December 5th, 1995, a landmark day for India, where India signed became the full signatory of World Trade Organization and World Intellectual Property Organization, which basically meant that we will now honor and recognize product patents in India, and Indian patents also will be recognized by those signatory signed countries in WTO worldwide, both ways. Okay, so now we are at par. So product patents are also in India now. Previous to that, it was only process patents. There were no product patents. Okay, it has its own implications, not for today. What is the current scenario in India? We are yet to recognize the full potential of IP rights. This is the domain in generation of IP, preservation of IP, and protection of IP. We are only in the first stage, which we are still fumbling. That's where we are. That's fine. Yeah, not fine, but yes, that's what we are. We are realizing. Domain of IPR is not just getting a patent. You have to preserve it, and also you have to protect it. Just to give you an idea, what is happening in the world, only half a minute on this. We are always talking about overtaking some other country in all technologies to establish our supremacy or so-called our progress. In 2021, China received worldwide 13 lakh patents. We received worldwide only 49,000 patents. No criticism, this is real facts and reality. So our target has to be how do we double it or triple it, not overtake some country. So our target at Government College of Arts, Science and Commerce is by 2025 we should have at least 10 filed from here. And every 5 years we should have at least 20 filed on an average. I think that as a challenge rather than overtaking China. So what is the role of scientists in IPR? So हो गया आपका. Now this whole background, this sexy part of it, the hard part of it, understanding part of it, थोड़ा हमको पता चला कि भाई IPR चक्कर क्या है. So we as scientists, what is our role? So we did a survey with 1,600 scientists in the country from 17 disciplines, not just art, science, commerce. 17 disciplines. उनको पूछा कि भाई what is your understanding of IP? These are the responses. Fourth one, I love it because they have no clue. At least honestly, they said we don't know. Majority of them said that, well, it is law and lawyer stuff. You will come to know very soon that it has nothing to do with law. The law and lawyer stuff is just a facilitator. Why? Well, the first question to ask ourselves is, well, who generates IP? Who generates IP? Lawyers? No. Patent agents? No. Patent examiners? No. Make no mistake, we generate IP. Without IP, there cannot be an IPR. Without IP, there cannot be an invention. Without invention, there cannot be even a chance of an IPR. So you should feel proud of yourself that, well, whatever you are doing, you are generating IP. Because you are applying your mind to create based on your training, which is your intelligence. So you should feel proud of that. Which by logic it results in, if there is creation on that application, due to that application, that creation has the potential for gaining rights to it, gaining a patent or 20-year exclusive rights to it. This is the reason why we don't understand IP, or we make it a very complicated thing. Scientists do not understand law, and lawyers don't understand science. And IPR sits right in the middle. This is where scientists and technologists are creating IP, which has to be facilitated in the legal way to get you the rights. 7 criteria. That's where the lawyers and law firms and agents and all those will facilitate that. But still, without your IP, they cannot do anything. So the question is, now we are going to we kind of talked about it, but now let's answer this. What is an invention? That is a prerequisite for IPR. What is an invention? The one response was something that is new, which has been generated, which has been realized by looking at the literature. कौन सा literature look देखोगे? What would be your objective for that? Only because you have done some work, that one you have already done that. When you started your work, you did your preliminary work to identify a problem. And then you have solved the problem in your research work. So the basic understanding of, simple and straightforward understanding of invention is this slide. Probably one of the hard slides in the presentation. You identify a problem, and then you do every effort to ensure that you solve the problem. That is your first research. You have gone to the literature, you have identified that there is a problem, and you are going to solve it. That was your project work. Master's thesis bolo ya dissertation bolo ya whatever project. Grant project bolo, whichever. There is a problem, and I have solved it through a series of experimentation, so on and so forth. I have got conclusions. So in the first research, you came up with 20 conclusions. That completes your IP part. That's all. Now I want to convert it into an invention. So for that, you have 20 conclusions to start off with. Now you do a second search, research. Second one. You go back into the literature and check what is known in that discipline that you have worked with. Not just get into the literature. This is a focused evaluation. What is known as of now similar to what I have done? So let's say you came up with 75 pieces of prior art, so-called, that is what is known. Every single piece of prior art, you check with your 20 conclusions, and see whether they are available in those 75 pieces. If that happens, you do not have an invention. Nothing wrong with it. But if it so happens that, well, you have looked at all 75 pieces of prior art, and then out of those, 15 of your 20 conclusions were already done or known, 5 of them were not known. So the difference between what is known and what is unknown. When you solve the problem, you have done worthwhile work. When you have done the second research, you have and analyzed it, you have identified what is not known. That is your invention. That is your worthiness. I can give you lots of examples, and the next one is an example. So, याद रखो, first you identify a problem, solve it. That is your first research. Come up with conclusions, check, go back into the literature and see what is done similar, and then identify the differences between what is known and what you have generated. That difference is your invention. So let's see, actual situation. How many of you would like to have your fruit during lunchtime which is fresh? Summers in Goa are very hot, humid. You are coming in a bus every day. Bus is all crowded. You have a banana in your backpack, and by the time you get to the work, and then at 12 o'clock you have your lunch, the banana is all mushy, 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 mushy. Yellow pockmarked banana. Do you like it? So this guy sitting in Korea, he said, well, I want my fruit to be fresh. I'm coming in local trains, metro. So I need that. So what did he do? Identify the problem. He went to Tupperware. Tupperware. Rocket science nahi. Tupperware is known for air traps, or so-called air resistant. He went to Tupperware and said, मुझे बनाना का shape का मुझे container दे दो, which has a hinge in the middle, which opens up, and then I need to have holes on the sides because the banana has to breathe. देखो बनाना बंद कर दो, लेके आओ. It is hard plastic. That's all it is. So he got a banana guard, patented it, identified the problem, looked at, solved the problem, checked what was known. There was nothing like that anything before. There were Tupperware boxes and all ready to store fruit. Nothing like this. So he was granted a patent. Guy sitting in Japan said, well, all bananas are not curved. My banana is straight. Straight line is technically different than curve. So that guy did not capture the curve or the straight line. So he said, my banana is straight. So he got a second patent. So guy sitting in US said, this, all of these are funny people. I don't care whether my banana is small, short, long, curved. I will have a flexible container. So he got a third patent. Got a third patent issue. Same principle. Guy in Japan was sitting there and said, why are these people only interested in banana? I want my orange, I want my pomegranate, I want my other fruits also. So now for every single fruit there is a fruit guard. Nice to know what is the value of it. What is the value of it? Fruit guard today is worth 20 billion a year. Okay? This is the value of your invention. Alright, let's continue. So this is how you identify your invention. So what is involved in gaining IPR or rights? Data generation, prosecution of the invention, and then getting a patent granted to you, and then protection. So let's speed it up. Who is involved in IPR? This is not computer glitch. The size of the font is on purpose. Contribution made highest, the largest font size. Scientists are the ones who contribute the maximum. Next are patent agents, then lawyers, then patent officers, and then everybody else. So we cannot do without you guys. IPR cannot exist without you. Okay? Alright, let's come to the length, breadth, and center of the entire domain of IPR. Prosecution, getting a patent. Preservation, what to do with it. Protection, how do you ensure that 20 years you have exclusive rights and how you exercise that. If we look at each of these, there are only three main domains. There is others too. There are only three main domains. What we are going to do is every single domain we are going to see what is the major activity there and who can do the job. Because we already know that IP cannot be generated without us because we are IP generators. Now we also know how to convert a little bit from IP what we have generated to an invention. So now we need to go to the first domain, which is how to prosecute. I have an invention in my hand. How do I get a patent? Second domain is I have a patent in my hand. What do I do? Third is I have a patent in my hand. How do I protect it from my competition? And question is who can best do the job in all three categories? What are the others just for curiosity? Incremental innovation, an entire program on cancer research. Incrementally, I'm protecting 140 plus patents in an iPhone. I'm protecting every single step. Commercialization, you have heard about it in many ways. Policies and procedures, IP data, IP intelligence, and competitive intelligence. How do you be one step ahead of your competition in the world? I'm not talking about somebody in next door. Of course that. Plus I'm looking at now the World Forum. How is Apple, number one brand, keeping ahead from Amazon? How is TCS and Infosys competing to maintain their advantage? So that is in IP intelligence. That's what where we have to be thinking about, not just getting a patent, which is also fine because it starts from there. Okay. So these are the three main. The big picture comes down to prosecution, preservation, and protection. So we have identified the three areas, and the question that we are going to ask is who can best do the job in each of these areas. And if you are able to identify that individual, and if that individual comes out to be the scientist, then that is a career in itself, because you know the criteria for patentability. I have created a new product in my hand. Will that give me a patent? What are the criteria for patentability? You should know that because we are the ones who are going to answer questions. We need 7 criteria: novelty, innovation, non-obviousness, non-anticipation, enablement, non-indefiniteness, and non-inerrancy. 7 criteria are there. No more, no less. Now we are member of WIPO and WTO. So if I file a patent in US, it will be evaluated against 7. If I file in European Patent Office, it will be evaluated in 7 criteria because all of them are members of WIPO and WTO. Who is going to tell what is inherent and what is not inherent? Who is going to tell what is novel and what is not novel? Lawyers, no chance. Patent agent, no chance. Let's see who. Novelty is simply first time ever. Nobody has done that before. Innovation is what is already known. I'm using it to get to novelty. Simple way of understanding it is if I have a vehicle which has 4 wheels, 3 wheels were converted to a 3-wheeler, never done before. I have taken my automobile engineering, which is innovatively changed to a 3-wheeler. So 4-wheeler to 3-wheeler does the same thing, but now I have innovation and novelty. three-wheeler to two-wheeler, two-wheeler to one-wheeler, one-wheeler to no-wheelers, no-wheeler to vertical takeoff. That's all part of novelty and innovation. What you know, you are applying it to modify it to get it to something that is not known. Okay? Straightforward. Both are required, by the way. So one thing is certain that every project may not get the patent, but every patent starts with the project. We already said that. If that is true, then there has to be a commonality between your project work and the patent, which is the result of that. So let's see what are the commonalities, which should make you feel good, because as you get progress in your research work, you will already know whether how to file a patent. Getting it is a different story. Okay? Every research project, scientific publication, or a patent has objectives, experiments, results, and conclusions or outcomes. So let's look at genesis of a research project. So this is what you learn and this is what you do. These are the sections that you write up when you write a thesis. Objectives, plan of action, design of experiments, conduct of experiments, collection of data, analysis of data, summary of results, and you come up with conclusions. That is your thesis. Project report de do, this is what you do. Now we go to the research and then, okay, fine, of those 20 conclusions, 5 conclusions are not known, so my invention is 5. Now I want to convert it into a patent. Let's see what are the sections for a patent. Same sections. There's an abstract. It has a background of not the project but the invention. Purpose of not the project but the invention. Summary of not the project but the invention. Detailed description of invention with examples, and ultimately, instead of conclusions, we have claims. A lot of similarity. So there is no mystery in getting a patent. No mystery. People make it mysterious. Oh, patent, patent, patent. There's no mystery. All commonality is there. So translating research into invention, scientist perspective, articulating research into the findings, into a claim. I'll ask you to do a very simple exercise. Whenever you get conclusions, you are completing your work, you ask these 4 questions. That's all you do. Honest to God. For every conclusion, you ask the question whether it is expected, whether it is inherent, whether it is obvious, or whether it is anticipated. Why? Because the examiner is going to ask the same question. For each of those questions, you have to have an honest answer, no. It is not inherent, it is not expected, it is not obvious, and it is not anticipated. If you are able to get that, virtually you have a patent in your hand. That's all you need. Difficulty right now is we don't know the definition of inherency, we don't know the definition of anticipation, we don't know the definition of expectedness, and we don't know the definition of obviousness. So that is not for today, but this is the simple test you have to do. Each conclusion you ask these 4 questions, come out with a note, you have a invention, a patent. It's just a matter of not writing. Who is going to answer the questions? The patent lawyer? No. Who can identify IP and translate research into IPR? Not lawyer. So the first domain, that's it. Resume. Does it require that it has to be in your own discipline? It can be any IP. Because the criteria are the same. Any IP. Any IP. Domain number 2, how to get a patent now. I have identified I have an invention and I also identified that I am patentable. Now I need to actually file and get a patent. That process is similar to when you write a manuscript and send it to a publisher. Take your research notebook, write a manuscript, and then you send it to the publisher. You have met the requirements of what the publisher wants for that publication by formatting and whatever. And what does the publisher do? Publisher sends it to an examiner who is a subject matter expert. Here you file it to a patent office, it goes to a patent examiner. The subject matter examiner will come up with questions saying, well, these conclusions are not good or bad or whatever, and you respond to those questions. Till of time when the queries from the examiner are satisfied. And then the examiner says, yes, your manuscript is approved for publication. We do the same thing here with the parent examiner who asks questions saying, well, this cannot be granted on inerrancy or whatever reason. So you keep on going back and forth with the examiner till you satisfy the examiner, and the examiner says yes. In India, they say the patent is granted. In US, they say the patent is allowed, claim is allowed. The difference is allowance of a claim requires the examiner to write, give a writing on the reasons on which the claim was allowed. Indian Patent Office does not require that. So there are repercussions, not for today. So you get a US patent which is allowed. In India, you get a patent which is granted. Finally, at least you got a patent. So now, who is going to answer these questions? Today, what you do is you pay 60,000 rupees to a patent agent who takes your research notebook and takes it for 1 month and comes back and says, I think we have an invention I can apply. You go to a patent office, law office in India, they will charge 1.2 lakhs, 1.5 lakhs, and after 1 year or 1 month, they will give you an analysis and say, yeah, I think we can find for the patent. They file for the patent, and then the examiner asks 10 questions. Who will answer them? The company. They cannot answer that question because it is not in their domain. Even if you have a technologist who is a lawyer or patent agent. So ultimately, it comes down to you. So if you are able to, you can file on your own. You don't need a agent. You can answer your own questions. There is all this mystery we know we need to hire someone. We need to do that. That is not required. Anyway, so the process is similar to getting a manuscript published. 8-step process. Agents, firms, they facilitate that for you. They will not answer a single question because that is not in their domain. If it goes to court, if it is challenged, they cannot open their mouth because the judge will stop them even outside their scope. It comes back to you. So getting your own claim cleared through a patent office, which is domain number 2, cannot be done without you, regardless of whatever IP you are working with. So who can best do the job? Not a lawyer, but the scientist. So second domain also you are the key person. Let's look at the last one. So we got a patent, fine, claims. How do you protect it? Have you ever thought of protecting your patent? Do you need protection? Let's start with that. Patent तो मिल गया जी, पार्टी हो गई. When the convocation speaker says that your learning starts now, after you graduate, same thing here. The moment you get a patent allowed or granted, that's when your headache starts. Anyone can challenge your patent. There are business strategies where they take that as an objective. They have no interest in your patent, they have no interest in your product, they have no interest in anything that you have controlling as per your IPR. But only because you are making a lot of money, I want a piece of action, so I'm going to challenge you. That challenge is in public domain. So in public domain, when it is challenged, it is almost like you are challenged in the in public domain where you want to keep the guy who is challenging quiet. So what will you do? You will come, go to that guy and say, okay, let's settle. So the guy is not interested in the product. The guy has made money. I'm not professing it, but that is out there. There are business strategies for that. Second, I want to stop my competition. Third, I want to buy you out so that I have products which are the same line and you are one step ahead. I want to buy it out so that you will not go to the market before I go. Pharmaceutical companies, new molecules, when they are on the market, as they come to an expiration, product is on the market which releases rapidly. Companies are ready with patents for the same molecule which is now getting off patent, but they have a product which is patented, which is sustained release. So what I will do, I have a patent for the molecule, he has the patent for the product, which is I need to get that patent right away, otherwise that patent will go into the market pretty quick. So I'll go and buy him out. So I need to protect it. How will you stop your competition? How many times you are frustrated? Oh man, that guy is copying my stuff. I can tell you he is doing the same thing or she is doing the same thing. We have the guts to go and stop that. Are there policies, procedures? Do we understand how to protect? Since 1995, there are only 3 infringement lawsuits in India. 27 बरस हो गए. Only 2 or 3, I believe, in invalidity, challenging the patent itself. 27 बरस में. In US, not because they're just sitting and litigating all the time. As I said, I have 76 cases I have been involved in patent litigation. We are getting patents, but we don't know how to protect them. We should, because it is our exclusive right is to us. So again, the question is, what are we protecting? And what are the challenges that come? We need protection from 2 things. One is validity. Anybody challenging my patent. Or I should know if I want to challenge somebody else's patent to show that, well, it is frivolous patent because they are in competition with me. Second is I want to stop my competition from copying it, infringement. Okay. So the question is, how do we address validity? 5 more minutes. Validity it is easy in a way. Till nobody challenges it, your patent is considered valid. That's good. Patent मिल जाने के बाद every day you pray for 1 minute कि भाई कोई challenge ना आए for 20 years. The interesting part is the grounds on which the patent is granted are the same grounds on which it is going to be challenged. So anything that you said or presented to the patent office to get a claim is going to be held against you to challenge the same claim that you have got. And you should be prepared to respond to that in a clear, convincing, and compelling evidence with preponderance of evidence, enough evidence. उधर तक हमको जाना है for validity. I want to stop my competition from infringement. So validity and invalidity, a scientist only can answer those questions. Infringement, copying of somebody else's work, failing to obey the law. I am not allowed to copy your product because you have 20 years exclusivity on it, and I'm copying it. So I am disobeying the law, number one. And number two, the action of disobeying is willful action. I know that I am copying. That is infringement. The third important part is there is some gain for me. आपको एक सिंपल क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ, ट्रैफिक सिग्नल जब रेड होता है, येलो से ऑरेंज से रेड होता है, do you stop or you rush to? So when you break a signal light, you know that you are breaking it. You know I have to stop at red. So it is a willful action of disobeying the law. That is infringement. Number three is, what are you gaining from that? You are gaining that, oh, मेरे को 36 seconds ज़्यादा मिलेंगे next destination पहुंचने के लिए. So you are gaining time. So if somebody is copying, you have to prove three things. Number one, they are doing it willfully. Number two, you have to prove that they are infringing or they are copying. And number three, you have to also prove there is a gain for that. You not that ऐसे कर रहे हैं because वो पता ही नहीं चला रेड लाइट था. I did not know that at red light I have to stop. Ignorance cannot be considered as disobeying the law or any kind of excuse, right? So again, the question is, who is going to prove? If my patent is being copied by this individual, I have to prove that the product that this individual is making is the same as mine because it is infringing on my claim. Lawyers cannot do that. Agents cannot do that. Only you can do it because you know the technology and you can tell on what grounds. So lawyers will plead for you, but they will not plead on the technicality of it. So protection also, the only individual who can do the job is the scientist. So in all three domains, the entire IPR rests on this IPR, IP generator engineer scientist. Not a technical expert in a given discipline, in any discipline. Two important aspects that I want you to realize and remember. Lawyers or so-called law program in US is a postgraduate program. So the students have to have a first degree and then for postgraduate they do law. And then they can have a specialization in IP law. Virtually 100% of all IP lawyers that I worked with, and I have worked with hundreds of them over years, they are technologists. They are PhDs in biotechnology, MDs, MBBS, chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, microbiologists. Very few are arts and commerce majors. Then commercial law. If you are talking about patent stuff, 99% are all technical background. So now you have a degree in science and you top it off with advanced training in IPR. Industry will like you like hot potatoes. I have instituted 5 IP departments in companies in India. None of the department heads are lawyers. None. They are all science majors. They employ lawyers. They employ services of IP lawyers. it is a career in itself. So today, if I have a professional degree or even a science degree for that matter, microbiologist, I have worked with four of the that I can remember right now, who have done their PhD in microbiology or biotechnology, and then they have done law and specialized in IT law. There is your career. Tomorrow, if you have a situation where if you are the employer and you have a job for which you are filling a vacancy, for that vacancy you require a technical person, and you have two applications, same degree, same degree, same experience in terms of time, but one has an extra training in IPR. Who will you take? Then you will answer. So this should have churned up some emotions in your mind as well. If you after you finish your first degree, or along the way when you get a degree, we have programs now where along the way you can get this extra qualification. Always keep in mind, I don't know whether your placement individuals talk about how to not only write a resume, but how to get a job, how to nail an interview. How will you differentiate from your competition? The job requirements are written, which are the same for all applicants. Other than this references and I know him and I know her and all that stuff, how would you differentiate from your competition? Either you should have extra skills, or you should have something to offer which would be beneficial to the employer compared to another individual who has the basic requirements for the job. And this is very lucrative. This is not like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to get 500 rupees extra, something not a big deal. This is very lucrative. Number two, and most important is, it is IP is IP. It is not restrained to any specific discipline. Because the criteria for IPR are the same. And that is what you are specializing in. Alright, few minutes on our center, maybe. Current scenario, we have already been talking about it, we are already introduced to the center. So in a way, but what we have done is we talk a little bit 5 minutes on this and then close. Reasons for low IPR awareness in the country is there lacks motivation. Number two, there is lack of policy and procedures at institutions. And number three, publish or perish is the mantra which should be revised to patent and prosper, where unfortunately prosper is interpreted as making money. So I would want you to consider prosperity is not just making money. So advancement is prosperity. Who is the focus? Focus should be the researchers and students, which is us. Syllabus talks about basics of IPR. No one talks about what the inventor should do with his or her research work, which is now slid into get a patent, get a patent, get a patent, get a patent, get a patent. And it stopped there. So that's where my frustration is. Educators need to incorporate IP into their curriculum discussions to increase knowledge on the importance and benefits of protecting IPR. Now there is an NEP which has now at least thought about that well, IPR should be in the curriculum. How it is to be implemented, those are all challenges which are still being faced without knowing what to do, but at least there is some now in the new education policy has come up for a lot of this work being done. So with that, we set up in 2016 the Center NEP came last year. What is the vision? Recognize and protect scientific discovery with all the rights it deserves. Mission is to provide professional services with highest quality and integrity to scientific community in recognizing and protecting scientific discovery through IPR at highest levels globally, not just India. Not just India. Globally. Three major objectives. One is academic and advancement programs through professional advancement programs, where we have a series of six programs. Whoever completes those will get a professional advancement certification in postgraduate certification. We have a very comprehensive 5-day program, which two of your individuals, I mean, participants from this institute participated in that program last month. Continuous update and upgradation of knowledge base in IP matters. Every year we have an international IP conference in November, where I bring in subject matter experts and IP lawyers and whatnot from all over the world, from US and other countries. They come and speak at that conference. More important, there is a second element to this conference is research showcase presentation, which is what pertains to you right off the bat, where you can present your research work and get it evaluated by subject matter experts one-on-one. And we recognize three most likely to have highest IP potential. So over the last 4 or 5 years that this program or this research showcase presentation has been implemented, there have been applications that have come through that for 5 years. And so it is pretty successful. 14 plus disciplines have been represented there, which include space technologies, science technology, fashion design, agricultural sciences, healthcare, all have been represented. So it is not only a discipline. Last is we provide IP services, help research institutions in this process of patenting, the process of how to address queries from patent office, how to identify whether there is an invention in your work, so on and so forth. Where are we at this time? These are the 6 courses, starting from basics, which is the course number 1, going to course number 2, which is research investigation to invention, to securing a patent, what it takes to draft a claim. Third is startup and entrepreneurship, role of IP. Fourth is global techno-legal considerations, which is basically IP law worldwide from scientist perspective. Fifth is protection of IP strategies, challenges, and solutions. And last one is comprehensive understanding getting into IP strategies, business, intelligence, competitive intelligence, so on and so forth. So all the domains are covered here in 6 courses. 5-year campaign, which we already have, you know about it. This 5-year dedicated campaign has the objective to induce spirit of inquiry, translating theoretical science into innovative products. We're going with this campaign. So far, it is almost 1 year and 8 months old. So far, we have accessed more than 20 plus universities, 14 disciplines, 4 associations, over 75 presentations at no cost to the institution. We do it as part of our service to the country. In that process, we have accessed 11 states and 1 union territory. Our ultimate goal at the end of 25 years is to cover all 28 states and 4 union territories with physically visiting over 2,000 institutions. So it is a mega campaign going on at no cost to the institution. This is where we are. We have more than 10 MOUs signed with various universities where they have now started to set up nodal points in various states through which we get access to the universities in those states and colleges to increase awareness of it. These are the 6 courses. Some of the proud moments for our center. We have the first center in the country, which is Center for Excellence in IT. And also the first center in the world, which is registered center under the Societies Act. first one. It's done below. Next, we have face-to-face meetings with chancellor and vice chancellor, so you have access to that. We have inaugurated various centers for innovation um, and at the various universities and colleges. Dehradun University, what is it? Dehradun Institute of Technology University, in recognition of our work, they have set 25th November as the Innovation Day in recognizing our contribution to the country. So every November 5th, 25th, they will have our Innovation Day. Where do we wish to be? We want to cover all 28 states by the end of 2025. So we need your support, we need your well wishes, and we are there to help. Okay. Summarizing it, this is the best summary that you can get is one slide where all three domains of IPR, it starts with scientists and ends with scientists. There is no ifs and buts. So you can be a career in itself, number one. And number two, IPR cannot exist without IP. IP cannot exist without scientists because they are the ones who generate it. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? You still have to answer those two questions that I posed.
Yeah, you can ask questions, but I know you're in a hurry to go. Gallon will be coming from.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much again. I really enjoyed talking about IPR. You can hear. Thank you again. We'll see you soon. Uh, yeah, November 15th, I would like to see all of you at our center because the conference is on November 15th and 16th. You will get an official invitation anyway, but personally, I would like you to participate in that, especially for those of you who are coming close to completion of your research work. That is a good platform to present it and actually get it assessed. Who knows, you might get recognition award. I want you to. Okay? All right. Good luck.